You wouldn't believe the stuff that goes on at the happiest place in the world. It all looks like innocent fun and games, but there is a dark side that Disneyland employees have to endure that you might not believe, or they just might make you laugh. If so, check out these 5 shocking confessions of Disneyland employees. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. The costumes are hell. This one might be a given. I mean, have you ever seen these silly costumes that Disneyland makes their employees wear? The regular cast member costumes are bad enough. All the wool and heavy polyester in a super hot and humid climate gets disgusting fast. But the character costumes are in a class all by themselves. They're heavy, they cover your whole body, and they absorb every last drop of the sweat pouring out of every inch of you, so they stink. It's a hot mess. Wearing a full body costume will also make you go through a total body change. There's not an inch of your body that isn't wet when you finish a shift. There are ice bandanas that you can tie around your neck, vests of ice for parades, but those all melt immediately. And then you're lugging hot, heavy water around. You pretty much just have to suck it up and suffer through the whole ordeal. How long you're out there in the heat changes based on temperature. If it's 90 degrees or under, you do the full 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off rotation. If it's over 90 but under 100, they might reduce the shift by 5 or 10 minutes. But the park guests want to see those characters and don't care about how uncomfortable you are, and your manager can always check that temperature in the shade and keep you out there longer. Then there are the costumes that seem to have been designed to injure their wearers as much as they delight children. The wig for Megara, for example, was so extreme that girls ended up having to seek medical attention because of the strain on their necks. Meanwhile, the panic costume needs to be closed by somebody else and ends up mashing your face against a metal screen that heats up instantly. Really, anytime you can't get into your costume by yourself, you know you're in trouble. One Disneyland employee said that they remember struggling through a parade in July when the heat index was well over 100. And they were in one of those horrible costumes that they had been practically sewn into. Well, before the halfway point, they were just trying not to pass out, stumbling along, not going over to interact with the kids along the route. When they finally got to the end, they had tunnel vision and were screaming for someone to get them out of there. When they had finally been unzipped, they shot out of the costume like they'd been squeezed from a birth canal and just laid there on the pavement, shivering and dry heaving until the entire parade had finished. However, some employees do enjoy seeing the reactions of the people and children when they see their favorite character. Number 4. Visitors want to molest the costume. This is a weird one, but it goes right along with the costumes. We just got off of those, so this is a good time. We'll try to keep it rated PG-13, alright? But these are confessions, and with confessions, sometimes comes some smut. One Disneyland costume wearer has confessed that as Mickey, you get a hand on your crotch a lot. Character training incorporates a male and a female class because no matter what gender you are, you need to be able to play both, depending on the character. There are plenty of girls who apparently made good Mickeys because multiple women would slip them room keys or reach out and grab a handful of mouse crotch. We don't know if that's a fetish or what. Would they insist that you wear the costume to bed? Other visitors just want you to break character and say that it starts with poking and pinching, although some people will straight up punch you in the gut to see if you'll make a noise. In general, there seems to be a weird desire by visitors to debunk the idea of Disney characters like they're blowing the lid off of some scam. The official position of the Walt Disney Company is that all characters are real and there's only one of each of them, and the whole park is organized so that no one will ever see 2 of a character at once. Mickey is never dining in a restaurant and walking by in a parade at the same time, and they always have to be ready with an explanation of their schedules because adults try to trip them up, saying they just saw a character across the park, and now here they are over here as well. You have to try to keep a straight face while pointing out that, well, you had time to walk over there, so Mickey did too. It's so strange to these employees because the visitors are the ones who've decided to spend thousands of dollars to come to Disney World for one of their presumably rare vacations. You paid for the very magic the employees are trying to preserve. No one wants to see the wires when they go to a magic show, and no one really wants to see 5 Cinderellas smoking cigarettes in an alley. But apparently, just seeing someone in costume messes with people's brains. Visitors will whisper insane stuff to employees, like, "So glad we got to see you. The kids don't know we're getting divorced after this trip. We haven't told the kids yet that their mom has cancer." Why the heck would you tell Mickey that? Or a park employee dressed as Mickey? Speaking of Mickey, every single terminally ill Make-A-Wish kid gets to meet him, and that's hard. And because of how often sick kids visit the park, it can be a painfully regular thing. The fairy godmother has it hardest. Kids ask her to cure them. Apparently, if the employee makes it through the day without sobbing, it's a good day. Number 3. The parks are hiding a small, secret city. You may have heard about the extensive underground tunnels buried beneath Disney theme parks for employees to quickly move around without having to cut through huge throngs of tourists. Believe it or not, Disneyland also has an entire city hidden above ground as well. This, quote, backstage hidden city disguises a full pharmacy for cast members and even a couple of medical centers staffed by registered nurses ready to treat cast members injured by overexcited children. See, smashed repeatedly in the crotch in the previous topic. Disneyland also has a bank just for cast members and a warehouse full of slightly damaged merchandise called Company D. Outside of buying groceries and sending your kids to school, there's nothing you'd ever need to do that you can't do on the clock at Disneyland, hidden in plain sight from thousands of vacationing people. So where do they put all this stuff? Well, take a look at Main Street again. See all those seemingly fake buildings? Well, they're more than just decorative facades. Those are actual functioning structures because Disney doesn't believe in wasting space. Whenever you see some whimsical building that doesn't appear to have any use or seems much larger than the tiny store taking up the bottom floor, it's because you're not seeing everything. That shop selling giant lollipops on the bottom floor of a huge faux brownstone could be sharing a wall with the happiest ER on earth, and you as a guest would never know. Fake buildings also provide the space for all the many warehouses that keep their stores stocked. When one of the costumed characters damages their fake head, they grab a new one out of one of those secret storerooms that looks more or less like the place where the government stashed the Ark of the Covenant. Number 2. There are tons of surprisingly dangerous animals. Speaking of behind the scenes, backstage at Disneyland is like its own ecosystem. There are so many stray cats. They have no idea where they all came from. The popular rumor is that a bunch of cats were brought in back in the 70s to kill mice, and now they have 5 generations of cat families running around because nobody ever bothered to bring the cats out of deep cover, sort of like Donnie Brasco. Then there are the ducks and the geese. At any given moment, you can be swarmed with waterfowl. And like the cats, nobody has any idea how they all got there. There are entire family lines of ducks that have never known life outside of Disneyland. The guests just assume they're part of some show or are otherwise there on purpose, and happily feed them scraps of food like they're part of the Magic Kingdom experience. If a cat gets on stage, the employees have to keep them from getting close to the guests for obvious reasons. Getting clawed by a stray cat at Disneyland is a good way to get some kind of terrible infection, and a great way to get Disney in a boatload of trouble. But believe it or not, the geese are the real threats. If you've never been around geese, they're kinda dangerous. They are extremely territorial. They hiss, they bite, and they'll even chase you while hissing at you and biting at you. But like we said, most guests just assume the geese are supposed to be there, and by extension, they must be totally safe as far as wild animals go. So they let their kids run around with the geese and try to pet them, completely oblivious to the fact that these birds, which are the same size as some of the kids trying to pet them, will totally bite the skin off of a person for absolutely no reason. Number 1. Parents straight up abandon their kids. Parents want to have fun at Disney just as much as anyone else. Since they can drink at 3 out of the 4 parks, that sometimes means ditching the kids as soon as possible. Or perhaps you're a local but have an autistic child who loves the parks. So you buy them an annual pass and ditch them at the gates so they can have the day free, knowing that the kind and concerned cast members will have your child well in hand by the time you return at the end of the day. While every location has its own not-so-fun quirks, no one likes the areas where you're just corralling people. Parents don't want to be told to watch their kids from a cast member, but somehow, just the fact that they're spending a ton of money convinces people that there can't possibly be rules. For all of these reasons, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground is the bane of some employees' existence. The whole place is an open-air garden of injuries waiting to happen. Stories such as a little girl face planting off the giant fly and winding up bleeding. She'd been hopping off to get to her mom faster because the parade was about to start, and gravity itself just wasn't gonna stop that girl from seeing Mickey. As soon as the crew saw blood, 4 cast members descended upon the wounded girl and brought her a wheelchair. The blood and the pain didn't seem to faze her much, but the thought of missing the parade set her crying up a storm. That kind of dedication deserved a reward, so she was told to stay right there at the first aid station until one of the employees returned. They hauled their way down to the character base where folks were just hanging out waiting for the parade to be over, and they got these nice personally autographed pictures of every character. Then they ran back and told the girl, "I told Mickey you had to miss the parade, and he was so upset that he and his friends all signed these pictures for you." And like magic, the tears dried up and smiles were on faces again. That sounds like true dedication like no other, but one has to wonder where the parents were. Perhaps punching Mickey in the crotch a few times. Hope you enjoyed the video, Top 5ers. If you haven't already, check out our other channel, The Brilliant, to enjoy even more amazing list videos. There will be a link in the description, so make sure you go check that out, as well as